The colony ship Hope's Journey drifted silently through the cold darkness of space. Inside, 3,000 humans lived their simple lives. They were farmers, teachers, doctors, and engineers. They had left Earth 6 months ago, looking for a new world to call home. They did not know that they had crossed into dangerous territory. Park Yuna stood near the observation window, watching the stars. She was 58 years old, with gray hair tied back in a simple knot. 20 years ago, she had been one of Earth's best military strategists. Now she was a schoolteacher. She had wanted a quiet life. She had wanted peace. Her husband, Kim Dong-yoon, walked up beside her. He was a kind man with gentle eyes. He studied alien life forms for a living. He put his arm around her shoulder. "Beautiful, isn't it?" he said softly. Yuna nodded. But something felt wrong. She had learned to trust her instincts during her years in the military. Right now, her instincts were screaming, "Mom! Dad!" Their daughter came running toward them. Park Ji-woo was 12 years old, full of energy and curiosity. "The captain says we're almost at the new planet." Yuna smiled at her daughter. But before she could speak, the ship shook violently. Alarms began screaming. Red lights flashed everywhere. "What's happening?" Ji-woo grabbed her mother's hand. Through the observation window, Yuna saw them. Massive warships, shaped like dark crystals, surrounded the colony ship. There were at least 20 of them. Each one was bigger than anything humans had ever built. The Valari had arrived. The Valari Empire ruled 17 star systems. They had conquered 43 different species over thousands of years. They were tall creatures covered in scales that looked like living crystals. They did not feel mercy. They did not feel pity. They only felt hunger for power. That Admiral Lexnell stood on the bridge of his flagship. He looked at the tiny human ship with disgust. His scales shifted colors as he laughed. "Such a small vessel," he said to his officers. "Such weak creatures. Capture them. They will make good slaves." The colony ship's captain tried to send a message to Earth. He begged for help. But the Valari jammed all communications. Within an hour, Valari soldiers boarded the Hope's Journey. Yuna pushed Ji-woo behind her as the alien soldiers marched through the corridors. The Valari were terrifying up close. They stood 3 meters tall. Their eyes were completely black. Their claws could cut through metal. "Do not resist," the Valari commander announced. "You belong to the Empire now." Some of the colonists cried. Some screamed. But Yuna stayed silent. She watched. She counted the soldiers. She memorized their patrol patterns. Old habits never truly die. The colonists were gathered in the main cargo hold. Families held each other. Children sobbed. Do-hyun kept Ji-woo close, whispering comforting words to her. Admiral Lexnell's image appeared on a large screen. He looked at the humans like they were insects. "Your leaders on Earth have been contacted," he said. "They demand your release." How amusing. A species with one planet thinks it can threaten the Valari Empire. He paused, letting his words sink in. "I will teach them their place." His soldiers moved through the crowd. They grabbed people at random. 200 colonists were pulled away from their families. Screaming, crying, begging. Yuna tried to push forward, but Valari soldiers blocked her path. She could only watch as the 200 prisoners were lined up against the wall. "This message is for Earth," Lexnell announced. "This is what happens when you threaten the Valari." The soldiers opened fire. 200 innocent people died in seconds. Teachers, farmers, children. Their bodies fell to the ground like broken dolls. Ji-woo buried her face in her father's chest. Do-hyun's hands trembled as he held her. But Yuna did not look away. She forced herself to watch every single death. She burned the memory into her mind. Vexenal smiled. Let the galaxy see. Let them understand. Humanity is nothing. The transmission ended. The screen went dark. Silence filled the cargo hold. Then, slowly, the colonists began to weep. They had lost friends, family, hope. But Una felt something different growing inside her. Not fear, not sadness. Something much more dangerous. Rage. She looked at her husband. She looked at her daughter. She looked at the bodies of the innocent people on the floor. And she made a promise. A promise written in the fire burning behind her eyes. The Valari thought they had sent a message. They thought they had shown humanity its place. But they had made a terrible mistake. The worst mistake any species could make. They had given humans a reason to fight. Far away. On Earth, the message reached the United Defense Council. Leaders watched in horror as 200 of their people were murdered. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Supreme Commander Lee Junho stood up. His face was calm, but his eyes were filled with cold determination. They think we are weak, he said quietly. They think we will surrender. He looked around the room at every single council member. They are wrong. Prepare Operation Reckoning. We are going to war. Across the planet, in hidden bases and secret facilities, humanity began to wake up. Ships that had been built in silence were powered on. Soldiers who had trained for decades received their orders. Weapons that no alien species had ever seen were loaded and ready. The Valari wanted to teach humanity a lesson. They were about to learn one instead. Supreme Commander Lee Junho stood in the war room deep beneath the mountains of Korea. Around him, holographic screens showed maps of Valari space. Red dots marked enemy positions. Blue dots marked human forces. There were far more red dots than blue. 300 warships, Admiral Choi Minji reported. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and an even sharper mind. 20,000 ground troops. 500 stealth fighters. The other military leaders shifted nervously. It sounded like a lot. But the Valari had thousands of ships. Millions of soldiers. They had conquered entire civilizations. It's not enough, General Beek Woojin said heavily. We're outnumbered 100 to 1. Junho smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a wolf who had been waiting in the shadows. Numbers don't win wars, he said calmly. Will does. Strategy does. And hatred does. He pressed a button. New images appeared on the screens. Weapons humanity had been developing for 300 years. Ships designed to move faster than anything in the galaxy. Soldiers trained since childhood to fight alien threats. We knew this day would come, Junho continued. Since the first alien signal was detected, we have been preparing. We watched. We learned. We built. And now, we are ready. He turned to face his commanders. The Valari think they know war. We are going to show them what war really means. Far across the galaxy, aboard the Valari flagship, Una sat in a cold prison cell. The walls were made of dark metal. There was no bed, no chair, nothing but hard floor and dim lights. But Una was not afraid. She was thinking. She had already counted the guards. 12 on this level. They changed shifts every 6 hours. The locks on the cells were electronic. The ventilation shafts were small, but large enough for a child to crawl through. Her mind worked like it had during her military days. Every problem had a solution. Every prison had a weakness. She just needed to find it. The cell door opened. A Valari guard threw another prisoner inside. It was Doin. His face was bruised, but he was alive. Are you okay? Una rushed to him. They asked questions about Earth's defenses. Do-hyun said weakly. I told them nothing useful. Where is Ji-woo? With the other children. Separate holding area. He grabbed her hand. She's scared, but she's strong. Like her mother. Yuna helped him sit against the wall. Her heart ached for her daughter, but she forced herself to stay focused. Emotions could come later. Right now, she needed to plan. "Your hands," she said quietly. "What chemicals can you make from prison food?" Donghyun looked at her. After 20 years of marriage, he knew that look in her eyes. She was not thinking like a schoolteacher anymore. She was thinking like the soldier she used to be. "Several," he whispered. "Why?" "Because we're not going to wait for rescue. We're going to rescue ourselves." In the children's holding area, Jiwoo sat surrounded by crying kids. Some were younger than her. Some were older. All of them were terrified. Jiwoo was scared too. She missed her parents. She had nightmares about what she had seen in the cargo hold. But somewhere inside her, a small voice told her to be brave. Her mother would be brave. Her mother would not give up, so Jiwoo did not give up. "Hey," she said softly to the kids around her. "I know you're scared. I'm scared too. But we have to be strong." A small boy looked at her with tear-filled eyes. "I want my mommy. I know." Jiwoo put her hand on his shoulder. "But right now, we need to help each other. Can you do that? Can you be brave with me?" The boy nodded slowly. Jiwoo began teaching the children hand signals. Quiet ways to communicate. How to stay calm. How to move without making noise. She did not know if it would help. But it was better than crying. In the darkness of space, something moved. Something the Valari could not see. Captain Han Sung-ho stood on the bridge of his ship, the Silent Wrath. It was a stealth frigate, painted black, designed to be invisible to all sensors. Behind him, 12 more ships followed in complete silence. "How close are we?" Han asked. "Entering Valari space now, sir," his navigator, Lieutenant Cha Yejin, reported. "No detection." Han nodded. He was 40 years old, a career soldier, and completely unafraid of death. What scared him was failure. Those colonists were counting on him. Earth was counting on him. "Open a channel," he ordered. "Narrow beam. Earth only." The communication officer worked quickly. A few seconds later, they had a secure line to command. "Commander Lee," Han said. "We are in position." Junho's voice came through clearly. "Status report? 13 stealth ships. Ready to begin harassment operations. We have located the colony ship. It's being held near the Valari homeworld." There was a pause. Then Junho spoke again. "Listen carefully, Captain. This is not just a rescue mission. We need to send a message. The Valari must learn that attacking humans has consequences." "Understood, sir." "Make them afraid, Captain. Make them realize what they have awakened." Han smiled grimly. "With pleasure, sir." He ended the communication and turned to his crew. They were young, brave, and ready to die for their people. "You heard the commander," Han said. "The Valari think humans are weak. Tonight, we teach them otherwise." He looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, 3,000 colonists were waiting for heroes who would come from the darkness. "All ships, prepare for Operation Nightmare. We strike at midnight." The Silent Wrath moved forward into enemy territory. Behind it, 12 shadows followed. The Valari had no idea what was coming. They would learn soon enough. The Valari space station Omega was the size of a small moon. 10,000 soldiers lived there. It controlled all military operations in 4 star systems. Admiral Vexenol considered it completely unbreakable. He was wrong. Commander Yoon-Haran led her team through the station's ventilation system. 50 human soldiers, all dressed in black, all moving in complete silence. They had entered through a garbage disposal port that the Valari never thought to guard. Why would they? No one was crazy enough to swim through alien trash except humans. Haran held up her fist. Everyone stopped. Through the grate below, she could see the main water supply control room. 2 Valari guards stood at the entrance, bored and unaware. She signaled to her team. 2 soldiers moved forward with small needles in their hands. The needles contained a sleeping drug that worked on Valari biology. Dohyun had sent them the formula before his capture, hidden in a coded message that looked like random noise. The guards fell without a sound. Heron dropped down into the room. Her team followed. Within 5 minutes, they had added the drug to the entire station's water supply. Every Valari who drank water in the next 6 hours would fall into a deep sleep. Phase 1 complete, Heron whispered into her radio. Moving to Phase 2. Across the station, other teams were working. One disabled the long-range communications. Another planted explosives on the weapons storage. A third team rewrote the station's defense codes. Not a single shot was fired. When Admiral Dexnall woke up the next morning, his entire command staff was unconscious. His communication systems were dead. His weapons were locked. And written on his bedroom wall in bright red paint were 2 words. "We come." He screamed for his guards. None came. They were all asleep. Meanwhile, in open space, Captain Han's fleet engaged a Valari patrol group. There were 20 Valari ships. Han had only 13. Any normal commander would retreat. Han was not normal. "All ships, scatter pattern Delta." He shouted. His ships broke formation immediately. They flew in random directions, spinning and diving like leaves in a storm. The Valari tried to track them, but their targeting systems could not keep up. "They're not maintaining formation." A Valari captain shouted in confusion. "They're flying like madmen." That was exactly the point. Valari military training taught strict formations, orderly attacks, predictable patterns. Human military training taught something different. Chaos was a weapon. Han ships attacked from every direction at once. They used asteroids as cover. They flew dangerously close to the Valari vessels, making it impossible for the aliens to fire without hitting their own ships. Then the Silent Wrath did something impossible. It jumped into hyperspace for half a second and reappeared directly behind the Valari command ship. "Fire everything," Han ordered. Missiles and plasma bolts slammed into the Valari ship's engines. The vessel exploded in a ball of fire. The remaining Valari ships panicked. They broke formation and fled. Han did not chase them. He wanted survivors. He wanted them to spread fear. "Send a message to all Valari frequencies," Han said calmly. Lieutenant Cha nodded. "Channel open, sir." Han spoke slowly and clearly. "You took our people. That was your first mistake. Underestimating us was your second. There will not be a third. We are coming for everyone you hold prisoner. And we are coming for you." He ended the transmission. Aboard the Valari flagship, Yuna heard the message through the walls. Human radio frequencies had somehow penetrated the ship's communications block. She smiled for the first time in days. Help was coming. But she was not going to wait. "It's time," she whispered to Doyen. He nodded. Over the past few days, he had created several useful compounds from prison food. A mild acid that could weaken metal, a smoke bomb, and a small amount of explosive paste. Yuna had fashioned a weapon from a piece of her food tray. It was not much, but it was enough. She waited until the guard came for routine check. When the cell door opened, she moved faster than anyone expected a 58-year-old woman could move. The guard was unconscious before he hit the floor. Yuna took his weapon and his keys. She freed Do-Yun. Together, they moved down the corridor, cell by cell, freeing other prisoners. "Who are you?" a young man asked, his eyes wide. "Someone who's tired of waiting," Yuna replied. "Can you fight?" "I was a construction worker." "Good enough. Take this." She handed him a pipe. "Follow me." Within an hour, Yuna had freed 40 prisoners and armed them with whatever they could find. Pipes, sharp metal, stolen Valari weapons. They were not soldiers, but they were humans. And humans did not surrender. The children are on Deck 7, Do-hyun said, reading a stolen datapad. I can disable the internal sensors from the engineering room. Do it. Yuna turned to her small army of freed prisoners. We're going to get our kids. Stay quiet. Stay together. And if any Valari gets in our way, show them what humans are made of. They moved through the ship like ghosts. Alarms eventually sounded, but by then, Do-hyun had scrambled the internal sensors. The Valari could not find them. Yuna reached Deck 7. Ji-woo was waiting at the door with 30 other children, already organized and ready to move. Mom! Ji-woo ran into her arms. Yuna held her daughter tightly. Tears streamed down her face. But only for a moment. We're not safe yet, she said. Stay close to me. Ji-woo nodded. Her eyes were serious, determined. She was only 12, but she had grown up a lot in the past few days. I knew you'd come, Ji-woo said. Yuna smiled. I'll always come for you. Together, the group fought their way toward the hangar bay. The Valari were confused, disorganized, unable to understand how prisoners had turned into fighters. They were about to learn the most important lesson about humanity. Don't never corner a human, because a cornered human does not surrender. A cornered human fights. The escape shuttle crashed hard onto the surface of a small moon. Yuna held Ji-woo tight as they slid across the rocky ground. Metal screamed. Glass shattered. Then everything went still. Is everyone okay? Yuna called out. Voices answered one by one. Bruises and cuts, but no serious injuries. 47 prisoners had escaped the Valari flagship. The rest had stayed behind to create a distraction. Yuna had promised to come back for them. She intended to keep that promise. Do-hyun checked the shuttle's emergency beacon. Signal is broadcasting. Earth should receive it within hours. The Valari will receive it sooner, Yuna said grimly. We need to find shelter and prepare defenses. The escaped prisoners moved quickly. They found a cave system in the nearby hills. They set traps using shuttle parts. They gathered rocks and sharp objects for weapons. Ji-woo worked alongside the adults, never complaining. When a younger child began crying, she sat with him and told him stories about Earth. Stories about oceans and mountains and green forests. Stories about home. Yuna watched her daughter and felt pride burning in her chest. Ji-woo had become a leader, just like she had always known she would. The Valari search party arrived 6 hours later. 50 soldiers in full combat armor. They expected to find frightened, helpless humans hiding in a cave. They found something very different. The first wave walked directly into a trap. Rocks crashed down from above, crushing 3 soldiers. While the Valari tried to reorganize, the humans attacked from the shadows, hitting fast and retreating before the aliens could respond. It was not a fair fight. The Valari had better weapons, better armor, better everything. But the humans had something the Valari did not understand. Desperation. Fury. The absolute refusal to die quietly. When human rescue ships finally arrived 2 hours later, they found 23 Valari soldiers dead and the rest retreating in confusion. Yuna stood at the cave entrance, holding a stolen plasma rifle, her face covered in dust and blood. Took you long enough, she said to the rescue team commander. The commander stared at her in amazement. Ma'am, how did you survive this long? Yuna looked back at her group of escaped prisoners. Farmers, teachers, children, all still standing, all still fighting. We're human, she said simply. It's what we do. News of the escape spread across the galaxy like wildfire. For 800 years, no one had escaped from Valari captivity. No one had fought back successfully. The great empire had seemed unbeatable, but humans had beaten them. Ordinary humans with no military training had outfought Valari soldiers. On a dozen conquered worlds, oppressed species began whispering. If humans could resist, maybe they could too. Small rebellions sparked on Valari colony planets. Supply lines were attacked. Soldiers found their food poisoned and their equipment sabotaged. Admiral Dexinal realized with horror that he was losing control. How is this happening? He demanded at an emergency council meeting. They are one species from one planet. We have conquered 43 civilizations. His advisors had no answers. They had never faced anything like humans before. Every other species they had conquered had surrendered when they saw Valari power. They had accepted slavery as inevitable. Humans did not accept anything. On Earth, Dr. Beek Yunji led a different kind of offensive. She was humanity's chief diplomat, a small woman with a gentle voice and eyes made of steel. She traveled to every free world that would receive her. She spoke to species who had lived in fear of the Valari for generations. She did not promise them human protection. She promised them something better. We do not want to be your masters, she told them. We want to be your allies. The Valari rule through fear. We offer something different. Friendship, equality, freedom. Some species did not believe her. They thought it was a trick. But then they saw human ships delivering food to starving colonies. They saw human soldiers freeing Valari slave camps. They saw humans sharing their technology freely, asking nothing in return. One by one, species began to join the alliance. The Thren, whose children had been stolen for generations. The Moxie, whose homeworld had been strip-mined. The Keth, who had been used as living shields in Valari wars. The galaxy was waking up. Admiral Dexinal called an emergency meeting of the Imperial Council. The great leaders of the Valari Empire gathered in their most sacred chamber, their crystal scales glowing with anger and fear. We must end this now, Dexinal declared. Before we lose everything. How? A council member demanded. Our fleets are spread thin fighting rebellions. The humans adapt to every strategy we use. They are like a disease that cannot be cured. Dexinal's eyes narrowed. Then we used the final option. Silence fell over the chamber. Everyone knew what he meant. Deep in the core of Valari space, there was a weapon. A device built thousands of years ago, designed to destroy entire star systems. It had never been used. The previous emperors had considered it too terrible, too dangerous. But Dexinal was not interested in honor anymore. He was interested in survival. If we cannot rule this galaxy, he said coldly, then we will burn it. Starting with Earth. The council voted. The decision was unanimous. The planet killer would be activated. Far away. Yuna stood on the deck of a human battleship, reunited with her husband and daughter. They were safe. They were free. But she knew the war was not over. She looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Valari were planning something terrible. She could feel it in her bones. What happens now? Jiwoo asked quietly. Yuna put her arm around her daughter. Now we finish what they started. The planet killer was called Extinction's Edge. It was a massive space station, hidden in the darkest corner of Valari space. Its weapon could fire a beam of pure destructive energy that would travel faster than light and turn any planet into ash. Admiral Dexinal stood on its command deck, watching as his engineers prepared the weapon. Earth's coordinates were locked in. In 12 hours, humanity's homeworld would be nothing but dust and memory. Let them rebel, Dexinal whispered. Let them think they have won. When Earth dies, their spirit will die with it. He did not know that humanity already knew his plan. On every world that humans had touched, on every ship they had freed, there were hidden listening devices. Allies who had once been Valari slaves passed information to human intelligence. Within minutes of the weapon's activation, Commander Lee Jun-ho received the coordinates. "How long do we have?" he asked his staff. 12 hours, sir. Maybe less. Jun-ho closed his eyes for a moment. 12 hours to save Earth. 12 hours to cross half the galaxy and destroy a weapon that had never been defeated. It was impossible. He opened his eyes. "Get me Captain Han." The Silent Wrath led the assault fleet. 47 ships, everything humanity could spare. They were outnumbered at least 10 to 1 by the defensive fleet guarding Extinction's edge. Captain Han stood on his bridge, looking at the tactical display. He had never seen so many enemy ships in one place. "Orders, sir?" Lieutenant Cha asked. Her voice was steady, but her hands trembled slightly. Han smiled. "We go straight through them. Sir, that's suicide." "Maybe." Han turned to face his entire crew. "I won't lie to you. Most of us will not survive this battle. But if we fail, Earth dies. Our families die. Everything we love dies." He paused, letting his words sink in. "We are not fighting for victory today. We are fighting for survival. For the future. For everyone who will never know our names, but will live because of what we do here." The crew was silent. Then, one by one, they nodded. They understood. "All ships," Han broadcast to the fleet. "It has been an honor serving with you. Now let's show these aliens how humans die. Attack." The battle began. Human ships flew directly into the Valari defensive line. They did not try to be clever. They did not try to survive. They only tried to create an opening, a path to the planet killer. Ships exploded. Good men and women died. But the line kept pushing forward. On the ground, or rather, inside, the station commander Yoon Haron led a strike team through the maintenance tunnels. They had launched from a stealth shuttle that had slipped through the chaos of battle. 50 soldiers. One mission: destroy the weapon. They fought through corridor after corridor. Valari guards fell. Human soldiers fell too. The numbers got smaller and smaller. Haron took a plasma bolt to her shoulder, but kept moving. "Push forward," she screamed. "We're almost there." They reached the main reactor room. If they could overload it, the entire station would explode. But the room was heavily guarded. 20 Valari soldiers stood between them and the control panel. "We don't have enough people," one of her soldiers said desperately. Haron looked at her team. Only 12 remained. Most were wounded. They were out of options. Then the door on the other side of the room burst open. Yuna walked through, carrying a plasma rifle that was almost too big for her. Behind her came 15 other freed prisoners who had volunteered for this mission. They were not soldiers. They were farmers and teachers and parents, but they were humans. "Need some help?" Yuna asked with a grim smile. The two groups attacked from both sides. The Valari were caught in the crossfire. In the chaos, Yuna pushed forward toward the control panel. Admiral Dexinal appeared on a screen above her. His crystal face twisted with rage. "You!" he screamed. "The prisoner! You think you can stop me?" Yuna looked up at him. Her shoulder was bleeding. Her legs were shaking with exhaustion. But her eyes were steady. "I'm just a schoolteacher," she said. "But I'm also a mother. And you made the mistake of threatening my family." She raised her rifle and shot the control panel. Alarm screamed. The reactor began to overload. The XNLS image disappeared as emergency systems kicked in. He was trying to escape. "Everyone out!" Haron shouted. "The station is going to explode." The survivors ran toward the hangar. Yuna grabbed Jiwoo, who had somehow, impossibly, followed her mother into battle, stealing a ship just like Yuna had once stolen a prison key. "You're grounded forever," Yuna said breathlessly as they ran. "Worth it," Jiwoo replied. They reached the shuttle just as the station began to break apart. Do-hyun was already at the controls. He had been providing technical support from the ship the entire time. "Everyone hold on," he shouted. The shuttle launched seconds before Extinction's edge exploded. A massive ball of fire consumed the station, the weapon, and Admiral Lexinal's dreams of genocide. In space, the remaining Valari ships saw their ultimate weapon destroyed. Their admiral was dead. Their empire was crumbling. They surrendered. The war was over. 3 months later, representatives from across the galaxy gathered on Earth for a peace ceremony. The Valari Empire had been dissolved. Their conquered territories were freed. Their leaders faced justice for their crimes. Una stood with her family, watching Dr. Beak give the closing speech. "We came to the stars looking for peace," Beak said. "We still want peace. But we learned something important. Peace is not given. It is earned. It is protected. And sometimes it must be fought for." She paused, looking out at the gathered species. The Valari called humans weak. They thought our compassion was a flaw. They were wrong. Our compassion is our strength. Our love for each other, for our families, for our future. That is what makes us unstoppable. Jiwoo squeezed her mother's hand. Do-hyun put his arm around both of them. "What happens now?" Jiwoo whispered. Yuna smiled. For the first time in months, it was a real smile. "Now we live," she said. "We rebuild. We explore. We do what humans have always done." She looked up at the stars. The same stars that had once seemed so full of danger now seemed full of possibility. We survive. And then we thrive. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Humans were not the oldest species. Not the strongest. Not the most advanced. But when you threatened what they loved, when you pushed them to the edge, when you gave them no choice but to fight, they became something terrifying. They became unstoppable. And that was why you never, ever declared war on humanity. Big mistake.